In the bustling heart of Midville, where the trains clattered past like clockwork and the locals debated over baseball and weather with equal fervour, Susie's diner stood proudly at the corner of Main and Elm. The shiny chrome exterior of the diner gleamed under the morning sun, beckoning hungry patrons with promises of the best coffee and blueberry pancakes in town. Inside, the atmosphere was a lively tableau of Americana. Red leather booths lined the walls, a vintage Wurlitzer jukebox played rock and roll hits, and a black and white checkered floor gave the whole place a sense of jumping straight out of a movie reel. Neon signs buzzed softly, proclaiming Susie's Diner, open 24 hours. At the center of this whirlwind was Beverly, a 22-year-old waitress with a penchant for quick jokes and quicker service. She wore a crisp white uniform with a name tag that gleamed as brightly as her smile. Her ponytail was a perfect swirl, secured by a polka-dotted scarf that matched her apron. Beverly wasn't just known for her efficiency, she had a natural charisma that made every customer feel like the most important person in the room. As the morning rush kicked into high gear, Beverly danced around the diner, balancing a tray loaded with steaming cups of coffee and Susie's famous buttermilk pancakes. The regulars were all there, each in their usual spots, and they greeted her with friendly nods and the odd joke. "Morning, Bev. You know, you're faster than last night's storm," chuckled Mr. Jenkins, a portly man with spectacles sliding down his nose as he settled into his favorite booth by the window. Beverly laughed, refilling his coffee cup without needing to be asked. "I try, Mr. Jenkins, but I think the storm still beats me. It knocked out my fence last night." Across the diner, a trio of teenagers from the local high school huddled in a booth, their eyes wide as they listened to the latest Elvis track blaring from the jukebox. Beverly slid a plate of scrambled eggs and bacon in front of them with a flourish. "Eat up, boys. You need strength to keep those hips shaking to the king," she teased, mimicking a dance step or two, which earned giggles and an appreciative whoop from the group. At another table, a young couple sat looking over a single menu, their heads close together. Beverly approached with a twinkle in her eye. "Don't worry, lovebirds. Our pancakes come with 2 forks on request." Her rounds continued, a masterful ballet of orders taken, jokes delivered, and the endless refill of coffee cups. Each interaction was punctuated with a laugh or a smile, the warm clatter of silverware and the soft sizzle from the kitchen where Joe, the short-order cook, flipped burgers with an artful flick of his wrist. Just as the morning seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm, the bell above the door jingled, announcing the arrival of the mysterious man in a suit. His entrance was like a needle scratching across a record, sudden and full of curious intent. As he scanned the diner, his face held a bemusement that suggested he was far removed from the everyday cheer of Susie's Diner. Spotting the newcomer, Beverly's eyes lit up with the thrill of meeting someone new, someone who might just need a bit of her sparkling humor to brighten his day. Clipboard in hand, ready to take his order, she approached with her usual pep. "Good morning? Table for one? Or are you waiting for James Dean to join you?" she quipped, giving him her best welcoming smile. The diner's usual chatter paused momentarily, the patrons curiously peeking over their coffee cups and newspapers, all wondering who the out-of-towner was and what brought him to Susie's Diner on this lively morning. The man in the suit, momentarily taken aback by Beverly's charm and the diner's cheerful chaos, managed a small smile. He straightened his tie, a sharp navy number that screamed big city, and glanced around. The diner, with its nostalgic decor and beaming faces, seemed like a different world compared to the sterile skyscrapers and rushed streets he was used to. "Thank you, miss," he began, his voice carrying a hint of an unfamiliar accent, possibly from the East Coast. "A table for one will be fine." He followed Beverly to a booth by the window, sliding into the red leather seat with an air of someone trying not to appear out of place. Beverly handed him a laminated menu, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Our special today is the Susie's Sunrise Breakfast, guaranteed to brighten up any cloudy day. And if you're in the mood for something sweet, our apple pie is almost as famous as Marilyn Monroe." The man peered at the menu through thin-rimmed glasses, his brow furrowing slightly as if the words hash browns and biscuits and gravy were part of a complex algorithm. "Actually, I'll just take a coffee for now. Black, please," he said, finally looking up at her. Sure thing, Beverly chirped, scribbling down his order. But just a heads up, our coffee's been known to jumpstart rockets. As she walked away, the man's gaze followed her, noting how the diner seemed to orbit around her vibrant energy. He pulled out a small notebook and a pen from his coat pocket, jotting down some notes. The other patrons gave him curious glances, whispering among themselves about the possible identity of their well-dressed visitor. Returning with a steaming cup of coffee, Beverly set it down with her customary flourish. Here you go, 1 black coffee, darker than a moonless night. And might I add, you look like you've got more secrets than the FBI. The man chuckled, a sound that seemed rare and rehearsed. Actually, I'm here on a bit of a secret mission myself, he admitted, lowering his voice. Ever heard of a diet shake? Beverly's eyes widened dramatically, her hand flying to her chest. A diet shake? Here at Susie's, where the motto is eat it and weep with joy? That's almost as crazy as a cat barking up a dogwood tree. The man's lips twitched into a smile at her analogy. Yes, I know it sounds unusual, but I'm researching for a potential article. I'm a writer for Modern Lifestyle magazine, and we're covering the new health trends sweeping the nation. I heard that Susie's Diner is the heart of this town, and what better place to introduce a healthier option? Beverly leaned in, intrigued by the challenge. Well, Mr. Modern Lifestyle, you've got yourself a deal. We'll make you the best darn diet shake you've ever had. What's in it, though? Magic beans and fairy dust? Let's start with something simple, the man suggested, warming up to the collaborative spirit. Maybe some skim milk, a banana, and do you have any wheat germ? Beverly snorted with laughter. Wheat germ? Around here we call that bird food. But you know what? Let's give it a whirl. I'll talk to Joe in the kitchen. He's a wizard with a blender. As Beverly dashed off to concoct the unlikely beverage, the man watched her go, his initial skepticism giving way to a burgeoning sense of anticipation. The diner, a symphony of sizzling bacon, chattering locals, and now the promise of a diet shake experiment was proving to be far more interesting than any skyscraper cafe back home. The mood in Susie's Diner shifted slightly as word about the diet shake project filtered through the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation. The regulars, ever curious and slightly suspicious of change, perked up at the thought of something new stirring in their favourite haunt. Beverly, with her characteristic zeal, donned a playful look of determination as she approached the kitchen. Joe, the grizzled cook with a soft spot for Beverly's antics, raised an eyebrow as she burst through the swinging doors. Joe, you're not going to believe this, but we've got a live one out there, she exclaimed, gesturing broadly towards the dining area. He wants a diet shake, can you imagine? Thinks it'll be the next big hit. Joe, a man of few words and many burgers, wiped his hands on his apron, his expression a mix of amusement and incredulity. A diet shake? In my diner? He grumbled. What's next, Beverly? Tofu burgers? Come on, Joe. It could be fun. Let's throw something together and see what happens. He suggested skim milk, a banana, and, hold on to your hat, wheat germ. Wheat germ? Joe scoffed, but his eyes twinkled with mischief. Well, why not? Let's give the folks what they want, even if they don't know they want it yet. Together, they assembled the ingredients. Beverly found some bananas and skim milk, while Joe unearthed a dusty container of wheat germ from the back of a shelf. With a blend of trepidation and excitement, they tossed everything into the blender, the machine whirring loudly as it mixed the unconventional concoction. Here goes nothing, Beverly said, pouring the thick, somewhat lumpy liquid into a tall glass. She topped it with a sprig of mint for good measure, hoping to improve its rather lackluster appearance. Back in the dining area, the mysterious man watched with interest as Beverly approached, the shake in hand, wearing a grin that could light up the room. Presenting the Susie's special Slim Shake, she announced, setting it down before him with a flourish. The man took a tentative sip, his expression unreadable. The diner fell silent, everyone watching eagerly for his reaction. After a long moment, he set the glass down and wiped his mouth, looking slightly bewildered. It's different, he finally said, choosing his words carefully. Definitely an acquired taste. Beverly leaned in, her curiosity piqued. Different bad or different good? Let's say different interesting. Not one to be easily discouraged, Beverly took a sip herself. Her face contorted comically as the flavors hit her tongue. "Tastes like a banana took a wrong turn into a field of wheat," she joked, causing a ripple of laughter to spread through the diner. Encouraged by the challenge, Beverly rallied the patrons. "Who else wants to try the future of dining?" she called out. One by one, brave souls ventured to taste the experimental shake. Their reactions varied wildly, from polite nods to exaggerated grimaces, each one adding to the entertainment of the morning. "Feels like I'm drinking my breakfast cereal after the milk's gone sour," quipped Mr. Jenkins, eliciting a round of chuckles from his fellow diners. Despite the mixed reviews, the sense of community and shared adventure brought everyone closer. Conversations sparkled over the shaky's potential improvements, and even Joe had to admit, "Well, it's not the worst thing I've ever tasted." The shaker might not have been a hit, but it certainly made for an unforgettable morning at Susie's. Beverly, undeterred, jotted down notes on the feedback, determined to tweak the recipe. "Don't you worry, we'll figure this out," she reassured her new friend, her eyes sparkling with the promise of another try tomorrow. With newfound determination fueled by the mixed reactions, Beverly set about refining the diet shake. She spent the afternoon experimenting with various ingredients, adding a dash of honey here and a sprinkle of cinnamon there. Her goal was to create something that even the most die-hard diner regular would enjoy without betraying the essence of Susie's. The next morning, Beverly was ready for the grand unveiling of the revamped shake. She had named it the Susie's Slim Shake in honor of the diner and had even managed to convince Joe to create a small sign that featured a cartoon banana lifting weights. "All right, folks," Beverly announced as she entered the dining area, her voice full of enthusiasm. "Round 2 of our diet shake experiment is ready to taste. We've made some improvements based on your invaluable feedback." The diner's patrons, now somewhat invested in the saga of the shake, watched with amusement as Beverly lined up several glasses along the counter. The new version was smoother, with a more appealing color and a garnish of fresh berries on top. "Step right up and take a sip of the future," Beverly coaxed, her hands gesturing like a game show hostess. A few regulars, along with some newcomers intrigued by the buzz, approached cautiously. The first volunteer was Mrs. Thompson, a kindly elder who was always up for Beverly's antics. She took a tentative sip, her face thoughtful. "Oh, now that's much nicer," she declared. "It's sweet and not too thick. You can actually taste the banana this time." Encouraged by Mrs. Thompson's approval, others began to try the shake. The high school students from the day before returned, eager to participate again. They joked and laughed, making exaggerated gestures of relief after trying the new recipe. "It's definitely an improvement," one of the teenagers commented. "Tastes like something my mum would make after a workout session, if she ever worked out." Even Mr. Jenkins, who had been a vocal critic, nodded his approval. "Well, Bev, I think you might be onto something here. It's got a kick to it now with that cinnamon. Not bad at all." As more people sampled the shake, a lively debate ensued about what else could be added or changed. Beverly took mental notes, her brain already spinning with possibilities. The diner buzzed with energy, the community coming together in a way that only food could inspire. Amid the feedback and fun, the mysterious man, who had introduced himself as Richard by now, watched with a smile. He had not expected this level of engagement or the genuine warmth from the townsfolk. Beverly, noticing his smile, felt a surge of pride. "So, Richard, think this might make your article?" she asked, leaning on the counter with a playful grin. Richard chuckled, his earlier reserve melted away by the genuine camaraderie of the diner. "Oh, it's making the article all right. How could I not include this? It's a perfect snapshot of how traditional spaces can embrace change and innovation. Plus, it's been incredibly entertaining." As the morning rolled on, the diner didn't just serve breakfast. It served a slice of life, flavored with community spirit and a dash of innovation. The shake might not have been perfect yet, but it was a symbol of progress and unity, bringing everyone a little closer with each sip. The success of the Susie's Slim Shake experiment, despite its shaky start, became a story that rippled far beyond the diner's chrome-trimmed counters and glistening bar stools. Richard, the once mysterious visitor, had indeed written his article, focusing not just on the shake, but on Beverly's infectious enthusiasm and the community's vibrant spirit. The piece was titled, "Shaking Up Small-Town America, Health Meets Heart at Susie's Diner," and it was set to appear in the next issue of Modern Lifestyle magazine. On the day the magazine hit the stands, Beverly arrived early at the diner. The excitement was palpable as she placed copies of the magazine on every table, her heart swelling with pride. The regulars streamed in, each one congratulating her as they read the article, their faces lighting up with delight. "Look at this, Beverly! You're famous now!" Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, her eyes scanning the glossy pages. And they got a picture of Joe looking almost happy. Joe, in turn, pretended to grumble about his newfound fame, but the twinkle in his eye gave away his true feelings. "Guess I'll be signing autographs now instead of coffee slips," he joked, handing Beverly a freshly made Slim Shake. The diner was busier than ever that day. People from neighboring towns, and even a few from the city, made the trip to Susie's to see what all the fuss was about. They wanted to meet Beverly, the heart and soul of the diner, and to taste the now famous Slim Shake. Beverly glided from table to table, her roller skates barely touching the ground as she served shakes, poured coffee, and shared laughs. "Care for a Slim Shake? Or the usual Heartstopper burger?" She'd ask each new face with a wink, her energy undiminished. Among the crowd were young couples, families, and even a group of teenagers who made Beverly blush with their cheers and requests for autographs. Each new patron left feeling a little lighter, both from the shake and the laughter that seemed to permeate the air of Susie's diner. As the day turned to evening, the jukebox continued to play hit after hit, and the diner never emptied. The local newspaper sent a photographer to capture the buzz, and Beverly posed behind the counter, shake in hand, her ponytail as perky as her smile. "Looks like you've started something big here, Bev," Richard said, watching the festivities from his now regular spot at the counter. "Who knew a diet shake could bring a whole community together?" "It's not just the shake," Beverly replied, her eyes scanning the room filled with new and familiar faces. "It's about having a place where everyone feels like they belong, where they can try new things and still feel at home. That's what Susie's is all about." As the evening wound down, Beverly sat with Richard, reflecting on the whirlwind that had swept through Susie's. She realized that whether it was a diet shake or a double cheeseburger, what really mattered was the joy and the community those meals brought together. And as long as she was around, there would always be more laughs to share and more shakes to make, diet or otherwise. In the corner, the jukebox played a slow, sweet melody, a perfect backdrop to a diner full of contented customers. At Susie's, the future was as bright as the polished chrome on the counters, and every day was a good day for a laugh and a shake.